Today, we celebrate this final day of the great octave of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Last Monday, we celebrated with joy her assumption into heaven. And today, we move to that fifth glorious mystery of the Holy Rosary, the coronation of Mary as Queen of Heaven and Earth. Today certainly is a great feast day, and it's not just one of, but it's my favorite feast in honor of Our Lady. The great promise and hope that Mary brings is discovered in our collect, in that prayer that began the Mass. You remember we prayed together, "O God, who made the mother of your Son to be our mother and our Queen, graciously grant that, sustained by her intercession, we may attain in the heavenly kingdom the glory promised to your children." That prayer, it proclaims her role and her power, that my mother, that your mother, that our Mother Mary reigns as Queen. And how awesome is that? And that she loves us. That she loves us as a perfect intercessor to her Son Jesus. What a gift. You know, on a natural level, all of us have our own mothers. And certainly some are wonderful and some maybe not so much. I recognize that not all are perfect. But if there was ever one person who believed in you, no matter what, that when you're doing well, champions you, and when you're doing not so well, and even if you're doing terribly, that one person who never abandons you, who never gives up on you, but who fiercely and relentlessly believes in you, your mom. Now, her love and faithfulness that you might even be thinking of now is real and tangible. We know it. And how wonderful that we have a perfect Mama Mary who loves us. Early in my time in seminary, I spent a summer in Omaha, Nebraska as part of our formation. It was a spiritual program at the Institute for Priestly Formation. And that program began with an 8-day silent Ignatian retreat. It's a wonderful time. And at the heart of Ignatian retreats is imaginative prayer, taking time to place yourself in the Scriptures, to see yourself interacting in the stories, to meeting the people, to talking to Jesus or talking to his mother. And I remember we would have 2, 3, even 4 holy hours a day where we would pray through the Scriptures. And there was one particular time of prayer that was awesome. I had spent this hour visiting the home of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. I had dinner with them. We had a wonderful meal, nice wine and food. And we talked and we laughed and we shared stories. And as the night wore on, they showed me to my room, that I even had a room in their house. It was an extraordinary consolation. It brought great joy to my life then and even now as I remember it. Now, as the retreat wore on, there was a particular day where we focused a little less on all this joy and more on sin. And not just general or vague sin, but my sin. All the ways, habitually, all the time, frequently or infrequently, I harm myself. That I do damage to my mind, my heart, my soul. But most terribly, the effect that sin has on our relationship with Jesus, on our relationship with our beloved. And I remember as I prayed with this, the weight of my own sin was terrible. The weight of guilt and of shame. And so as I went into my holy hour, the first and immediate thing I wanted to do was go back to Jesus' house, to see him, to see Our Lady. And I remember as I approached the house, that guilt and that weight was too much to bear. And I was filled with shame and fear as I thought, how could they look at me? They'll see my sin and they'll reject me. They'll say, you're not welcome here anymore. And I remember I just knelt down, my face in the ground, weeping. And you know who came to me? Mary. She approached and said, look up at me. And I said, no. You shouldn't say no to Mary. But I said, no. And she picked my head up, and I noticed that she too was weeping. Not over my sins, but at my fear and my lack of trust. And in the way that only a mother can, this fierce and powerful intercessor picked me up. I was much bigger than her, but it didn't matter. Moms have such strength. And she picked me up, and she brought me into her home, and she brought me to Jesus. I am convinced that Mary's power and love is unstoppable. And so my prayer, my plea today to all you parents and to grandparents is to teach your children, especially your sons, about Mary. And even more than teach them about her, help them, encourage them, and foster in them a love for her. Help them to fall in love with her. Because when that devotion is real and personal, when that love for her is real, especially when they're young, she will never depart from them. She will never forget them, and she'll never ignore them. But she will always be an advocate, a perfect and fierce warrior and advocate for them, that no matter how far they may wander, and sometimes we do, they will never wander too far. Because she, the perfect mother that she is, will always draw them back, will always call and bring her children back to her Son. She'll bring them to Jesus.